I'm back. I'm back. I changed clothes, took a shower, feeling better, feeling stronger, feeling more refreshed. Um, anyway, hey, I have a question for you. I'm going to throw this out there. Uh, should I share this stuff on IGTV? Because it keeps asking me that question. Because when I went to end it, they said, "You want to save the video?" I said, "Yeah." Do you want to do IGTV? But if I do that, it goes directly to IGTV before it's actually finished. So I'm not exactly sure, but I guess I should put these up. Most people, I think, do post these to IGTV. Anyways, I've turned on the airplane mode and I'm just on Wi-Fi, and yet I'm still getting messages from everyone. So we're going to ask a couple more questions here, ladies and gents. Here we go. I love how everybody's from all over the country. Okay, what do we have here? The Czech Republic, fantastic. People need to know how celebrities impact us. Yeah, I guess they do, if you let them. Maybe you shouldn't let them. I don't know. There's some celebrities you don't want to affect you. I can assure you of that. Yes, Jason may be going crazy, and he's got hammers in his apartment. So maybe I made the right choice by actually not staying with Jason, who's got a bunch of homemade hammers there. I think that might be a good thing. Oh, somebody asked me about my turkey story. Oh my God, somebody knows my turkey story. Well, that's funny, but that's another macabre animal story that I don't think I should tell right now. I should let it wait. I have to come up with some fun stories. Oh, I've got one. Okay, so we had a cat, and the cat's name was Rumpelstiltskin, which is a great name. And Rumpel, he liked to hide in small little warm places. So when the dryer was pulled down, he would jump into the dryer and be in nice warm clothes. Well, one day, I remember I was like, oh, I got to get my uniform. And I went to open up the dryer, and I reached in, I felt this kind of warm, fuzzy thing. And I was thinking to myself, God, it's really strange. My mom would put like a fur coat in there or something. That's really weird. Well, obviously, it was not a fur coat. It was Rumpelstiltskin. And what had happened is that Rumpel had jumped in there before the stuff was dry. Somebody put it down. He jumped in. Somebody didn't know. They shut it. They turned it back on. So Rumpel, as I picked him up, kind of like was wobbling around, couldn't quite stand up. A little tiny trickle of blood here. I was thinking, this is not good. So we got in the car, we took him to the vet, and all of a sudden, just like out of nowhere, he just like sprung to life, like hanging off the ceiling of the car. So we got to the vet. He's like, "Oh, obviously your cat's fine. I think he's fine." But he wasn't ever quite the same. So suddenly, this cat who didn't like the dogs was hanging out with the dogs all the time. And what the dogs did is that the dogs would nip at tires when you drove in and out of the driveway. And that's what the cat started doing. The cat thought he was a dog. Yeah, and this was kind of funny for a while. But it didn't end well for the cat because the cat got run over. God, really, I'm going to come up with a happier animal story. I will come up with one. I will come up with one, okay? Whew. Joe's dark animal stories. You know what? I would be like the perfect kind of contrast to Mr. Rogers. Maybe they should have like the kind of dark Tim Burton version of Mr. Rogers, and that would be me telling how little puppies die and stuff. And, yeah, that would be a good show, wouldn't it? Yeah, it is. See, people are saying it's a horrible story. I apologize. You know what? I started telling the story. It wasn't until midway through that I realized it was kind of a horrible ending, but I couldn't stop because I was in the middle of it. So I really apologize. I'm going to come up with a happy one. Maybe I'll just make a story with a happy ending just to make you guys, make it good. Anyways, so yes, meandering macabre muses of Joe. Yes. Okay. Let's answer a few more questions, kittens. All right. Yes. Oh, I do have another cat story, and it's not that sad. Okay, so the other cat we had, and for the life of me, I can't remember his name. I can't. I actually, I'll remember it. I'll get back to you on the name. But anyways, it was a big gray cat, and we had burlap wallpaper, and the cat would freak, and it would just like come charging into the room, climb up the wall, and like look around. And we always thought it was kind of funny. However, he started destroying the the wallpaper. So my dad was getting a little upset, and my dad was an older guy. He was a World War II vet, and he wasn't like this kind of soft, lovey-dovey thing. He had a kind of absolutism to him, which like helped him, but it was pretty absolute. And he was like, "Goddamn cat, take him to the pound." And that was it. I was like, "Seriously? Okay, all right." So I drove the cat to the pound, and it was kind of weird. I dropped him off. And I thought, well, that's kind of sad. Jeez. And I went home, and that was that. And that was, you would think that's the end of the story. It's not the end of the story. Because 3 months later, guess who comes walking up the driveway? The cat. And by the way, the pound was like 30 miles away. So somehow the cat figured it out, came back, and I kind of put my foot down. And I was like, "Dad, this thing's not going back to the pound. You got to give him a break." But he wasn't allowed inside. So he became an outdoor cat. Increasingly wild and feral. But, you got to give it to him. Like, what is it that a cat can find that? And, that leads me to an interesting question. I want to know how animals have directional kind of things. We have directional little nodes, finding out where things are. You hear about, like, bees and birds and other animals being able to, like, navigate, like, very long off distances. Well, this is interesting because we now have Google Maps and what have you, Waze and everything else. And we stare at them and we figure out that's how we get to places. So what I'm trying to figure out is how do you... There's a story of a woman in France who went to go visit her grandchildren. And I think she was going from someplace like from Paris to Lyon. Well, 3 days later, she arrived, but in the wrong place. She arrived in the what is formerly Yugoslavia. I think it was Serbia. I don't remember what particular country she entered. But she was so glued to her thing and so glued to the directional device without kind of thinking and looking at signs and putting pieces together that she just drove to Yugoslavia. Now, there's another example of a guy actually driving off a cliff because that's where the map told him. Just went off the cliff. So I want to know, after hundreds of thousands of years of like this directional navigational skill set that we've developed, how we've given it up through this little device that says follow these directions. I mean, it's an interesting question because seriously, we are directionally challenged. You see people just looking at things and turning left and turning right and like bumping into each other. And it's crazy. I had to fly back from LA to Vancouver every day for years, and the car service, the first time, they kept screwing up because I'm not on the map correctly. I was not on the map correctly. So I would send them very, very specific directions. I'd say, whatever you do, don't follow the map on your phone or your computer. Follow my directions, because you're going to get lost, and then there's no phone service, and then you're kind of screwed. So sure enough, they would never listen. And I think I missed like four flights because they just would get stuck in the canyon, they get lost, no phone service, and then be driving around. And it's this adherence. It's almost like we've usurped ourselves. We've just given away our navigational skill set to a phone. And I just remember when I was a kid, if I went to a city And it could be Mexico City, it could be Rome, whatever it is. I could look at a map one time, literally one time, and I never needed to look at that map again. I knew where everything was. And I know that's a little bizarre, but I just had this ability, and it was. I don't know if it's not. I don't think it's a photographic memory, but what it was is I was able to like distinguish particular landmarks, and I'd kind of do things accordingly. And we're not looking anymore. Like our eyes are here. Like our eyes are here. They're not there. They're not actually looking at the horizon. And I find this to be really strange and frightening. And I know there's all sorts of news documentaries and studies about the effects of the phone and social media and everything else. But I want to know what the effect is on us as human beings, as little mechanisms of survival, like how much we've given up and our inability to like actually kind of go into a forest and like figure shit out. I don't know. That's my little spiel. That's just spiel for the day. You guys think about that. Okay. Okay, next question. Have you done country line dancing? When I was a kid, we were forced to actually. I gotta move this a little bit over here. It's getting a little too bright over there. Sorry. Well, there we go. That's over there. When I was a kid, we had to do square dancing, and I really did not like it. I did not like square dancing. But, you know, for somebody else, it's all great. I probably like square dancing now. I think it's really interesting. What did I ever learn in school? Who knows? What did any of us learn in school? Did you read history in your spare time? Who was your favorite? Oh, wait, disappeared. The questions come so fast, I can't answer them. Can I imagine quarantine without the internet? Ooh, that's a good question. That's a good question. Now, without internet, but maybe with TV and a phone? Possibly. But that's a good question. You know, maybe the quarantine would be better without internet. Who knows? I don't really know. But I mean, people. I don't know. I mean, I think the internet is a plus and a minus, as we all know. As I sit here talking on the internet, the interwebs. Let's see what else we got. Oh, look at! I didn't even know this. I just discovered that I can scroll back. I can scroll back and look for the question in case it goes too fast. Well, that's good to know. So throw some questions at me. Were you a troublemaker as a kid? No. Never. Okay. I had some problems. I do remember getting in trouble and not knowing why. And everybody would say, no, he's a good kid, but he's in trouble. And yeah, it was interesting. And I remember being confused, and I remember... what I think is that a lot of the things that got me in trouble were also the things that allow me to succeed today. So it was like it's a fine balance between trying to discipline a kid and beat certain qualities out of a kid. I'm really aware of that, having 3 boys, of how much I push them. I don't want to shape them, and I don't want to mold them into something that they organically don't want to become, because there is a lot of qualities that are not necessarily revered as you grow up and are in school that actually work well when you grow older. You know, being skeptical doesn't work so well in school. That's called insubordination. Being active, that's called being hyperactive, and sit the fuck down. So I can't really say, I don't look back on it and saying, God, I was a troubled kid. I'm lucky I came out well. I really wasn't a troubled kid, but I did feel like there were times where I was looked at like a troubled kid. And so I have a tremendous amount of sympathy, too, for boys. And I say that because I just don't have as much experience with girls. But when there's a boy that's like having trouble or he's having a tough year, and I hear other parents kind of like all gang up on him behind his back, of course, because that's what parents do. You know, I hear all these mothers talk about some boy who, stay away from him, he's trouble. It makes me really uneasy, because I know that boys can have a bad year followed by a really good year. And I hate seeing kids stigmatized. They may be going through a phase, but they're just going to go through a phase. They're going to be fine. And it's like really important that like parents don't do that. And people don't do that. I've had this argument before with my ex-wife because I've heard some conversations come up that have said things like, oh, so-and-so is a troublemaker. You don't want your kid to play with him. Now, okay, that's fine. That's fair. There are things that you should look at for sure. But the odds are that kid is going through something and he's like needing something. And he's probably fine if given the right amount of attention and acknowledgement. Odds are he's going to respond well to it. So I've seen so many kids turn the corner and like end up being really good, and they were told that they were going to be a nightmare. So yeah, so there. That's like my little. I feel good about that because I feel like sometimes maybe I was that kid too. All right, let's see what's next here. Kiddies, favorite TV show when you were a kid? We literally had 2 channels, and one of them had I don't remember, it was like CBS and NBC or something like that. Literally grew up with very little television. I was allowed to watch a couple hours a day. I'd come home, and I think the Mickey Mouse Club would be on, followed by the Andy Griffith Show, and maybe Gilligan's Island. It's that type of thing. And by the way, where I grew up, the programming was probably still 8 to 10 years behind the programming in Los Angeles because they were all local stations and what they could afford. And the station I think that we got our stuff from was Reno, Nevada. And I don't think it was pretty like bottom shelf. So I think that's what I ended up growing up on. And I guess it was good enough. Didn't really miss. I think television is anything that's going to really help you growing up. That's for damn sure. Let's see. What else do we got here? If I could star as in any fictional universe, Star Wars, what would it be? Well, it would be Star Wars. And it would be, of course, Han Solo. I'm actually kind of frustrated by that because I love Harrison Ford. I think he's a great actor. I really like what he does. And I thought Han Solo was a great character. And I was really disappointed with the remake of the other Harrison Ford character. I mean, I'm sure he's a great actor, but it's like, you just can't quite replace him. So, am I an introvert or an extrovert? Well, I think I'm a little bit of both. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. Yes, you are Han Solo. God, your lips to God's ears. I could have done that. I do say that. Have I met Harrison Ford? Yes, I have met Harrison Ford. And he's super cool. And I like him. Yeah. It's really funny. Okay, I have to say, I don't really do this. I really don't go to these things. But I went to the Academy Awards one year. And the awards were boring as hell. But the after party at Madonna's is listen, I'm not easily impressed, and I don't really, the people I look up to are not necessarily celebrities at all. So I'm there, but it was so dense in its celebrity factor. I mean, clearly I was the least known person there. And I just remember, next to me was Bob Dylan. And then I accidentally stepped on somebody's little dress thing, and that was Meryl Streep. And then I was trying to get a drink, but somebody took the drink from me, and that was Harrison Ford. And it just went on and on and on like this. And I was like, Bruce Springsteen, Madonna. I mean, I was just like, okay. So it was like being in the Mount Rushmore of celebrity icons. It was fascinating. And that was one of the few times where I was like, wow, okay, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Wow. Kudos, Bob Harrison. I don't know. What's Madonna's first name? I don't even know. Meryl Streep's lovely, by the way. Anyways, surfing or mountain biking? You can't. Apples and oranges, baby. Apples and oranges. They're both amazing. Mountain biking is so much more dangerous, though. So be careful. Be very careful. Let's see. What do we have here? Made with you. Somebody saw a video of me as Jack Sparrow. Wow. Parlay. I would like to see that. Do I regret growing up on a farm? Absolutely not. I don't regret growing up on a farm. No, it was amazing. I look back on it. I feel really lucky that I grew up on a farm. So let's see. Let's go to the next question here. How do you like Clint Eastwood? I like Clint Eastwood quite a bit. I'm a fan of Clint Eastwood. And, you know, I don't know that he's like a great actor, but to me, that's not important. He's a movie star. He has a presence. He knows what he does. He directs some pretty decent films. Everybody I've talked to, everyone, hands down, said he's an absolute pleasure to work with. He's like calm and cool and just like, you know, has this calm way that you like. Sometimes when he just yells action, it's just like action and like things flow and there's no anxiety. And so, you know, sometimes being on set with people like that is great. And I think he gets really good performances out of people. I mean, even Sean Penn loves him, and I know they are politically opposites. So, somebody asked me if I started thinking about starting a podcast. Yes, I want to do a podcast, and if I'm lucky, I can get my stuff organized while I'm here in a 14-day quarantine. But what I need to do is, I'm having some problems. Okay, somebody can throw this out. I'm having problems, and one of the problems is, this microphone works really well, but the incoming doesn't have the same clarity and quality. So when I'm doing an interview, it just goes back and forth. It sounds like I'm talking to some guy in like a cave in Burundi. So I need to fix that. And if I can fix that, everybody has any suggestions, I'm all down with that. Yeah. How was it to work with Jean-Claude Van Damme? He was great with me. He had a reputation for maybe being a little difficult, but I didn't experience it. He was amazing, and I mean, you know, it's kind of cool, like Jean-Claude. So, what was it? So many questions. What does it say? Was your worst nightmare the one thing you absolutely dread waking up to that is now a reality? Oh, boy, that's on point. My biggest fear is waking up in a hotel room in Toronto, not even halfway through a 14-day quarantine. Yeah, that's my biggest nightmare. I'm going to tell you, it feels like Groundhog's Day. Groundhog's Day. Crazy. Keeping it together. Keeping it together. You know what? I may have gone a little crazier if it wasn't for you guys. Look at, did I watch Star Trek as a kid? I kind of watched Star Trek as a kid, but I was not a Trekkie. I was not a Trekkie. So, but I've since I've really grown to love science fiction. So somebody asked if I had any phobias. Yes, clowns. I hate clowns. Is Mr. Hewlett talking with you? Has he been talking with me? No, but you know what? I should call him. Yeah, that's what. You know what? I'll get Hewlett. Want to do a live stream? Maybe tomorrow. I'll figure this out. I can get Hewlett and I to do this together. You're not good sitting still, are you? Well, what makes you think that? Do you like Shepard? Where's okay. We are at an inflection point, ladies and gentlemen. And that inflection point says, should I stay or should I go? I think I'm going to start signing off. And I'm going to get back to you guys tomorrow. I'm going to have some more specific topics, and maybe I can get somebody to come on with me. Obviously not in my room, but it could be me and my coconut, or it could be me and David Hewlett, who knows, or maybe it's just me, who knows. But I'm going to do that, and I want to thank everybody for joining me. I feel like I've been pretty consistent here. I said I was going to do this 2 o'clock Eastern time every day, and so far I've done it. I'm proud of myself. Especially with the packed schedule I have in this hotel room, all the stuff I need to do. Squeezing this in is really difficult. So, anyways, I want to thank everyone. And I look forward to seeing everybody tomorrow. And I'm just kind of wondering what's going to happen between now and tomorrow, between the time I talk to you. Like, what weird little bits of news and information are going to pop up on our radar between now and tomorrow morning? I'm going to say lots of weird things. And maybe we'll talk about those things. Because we're living in an incredibly weird time. I want to say one other thing. It's a little weird. Mr. President, makes a point of being out there all the time. We haven't seen him in 2 days. We haven't seen this guy in 2 days. Now, this is not a guy who's like shy and doesn't want to be in front of the cameras and like dominate the airwaves. This guy wants to dominate the airwaves. Tweets don't count. This guy wants to be seen. He wants to be seen all the time. Why isn't he being seen? Not a conspiracist, because I don't think this is a conspiracy, but I have a feeling he's not quite as well as he'd like everybody to land on. So, anyways. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, Netherlands. You're tuning in a little late, but if you come back tomorrow at 2 o'clock Eastern Time in the United States, we will be around. Oh, somebody said he must have drank some bleach. Good question, because you know what, he probably did. Or radiated himself. Maybe he opened himself up and radiated himself. Anyway, you guys take care. You guys stay safe. Keep your head screwed on in this increasingly crazy world. We'll talk about the crazy stuff that happens between now and tomorrow morning. Thanks for joining us. Stay safe.